Welcome everyone, and welcome to this third webinar in which we present the data journalism training program. And we also give the floor afterwards to our guest speaker, which is here with us today. So today's guest speaker is Thanasis Troboukis. He's a data journalist at iMEdD and program manager. And he has an amazing curriculum because he has worked in the past as a reporter and editor-in-chief of some of the most successful Greek media. He set up the office of Vice Media in Greece and also was shortlisted for the Investigative Award of the European Press Prize. And today he's going to tell us a little bit more about the most recent, one of the most recent projects he did with iMEdD, which is about Greek elections and how to use ChatGPT to carry out sentiment analysis. But I don't want to spoil it too much, so I will first give you a brief overview of the data journalism training program, which will start in September. So we are almost there, I would say, after the summer holidays. The program is run by Dataninja in collaboration with the European Data Journalism Network. Dataninja, of which I'm part, is a working group that's been active in Italy and Europe since 2012. It's supporting journalists and NGOs, public school teachers, and companies in leveraging the potential of data. While the European Data Journalism Network is a network of independent media organizations and data newsrooms producing and promoting data-driven coverage of European topics in several languages. And the network brings together journalists, developers, policy experts, and it has over 31 members in 19 different countries. So together, Dataninja and EDJNet joins forces to launch this training program, which is now at the second edition, because we had a first pilot last year. And during the program, which will start in September, you will have access to tons of little different materials. You will have lessons that you can follow online at your own pace. You will have quizzes to assess your learning progress. You will have also live workshops from media experts and a Slack community where you can get to know other people and ask us also questions whenever you're in doubt. And also you will have a final assignment, which is optional, but it's also a chance to really put in practice all the things that you've learned, and also receive our support and a review and a feedback, so you can really have something put in your curriculum of which to be proud of. What are the topics of the online program? They cover what we think are, let's say, the stepping stones of any data journalism project. Not necessarily in this order, but more or less you will always find bits of these elements when you work with data. So we will cover topics like how to find data, how to prepare your data for analysis and visualization, how to use spreadsheets to analyze data, and then how to visualize data with visualizations using free and accessible tools. At the end of the program, as I mentioned, there's going to be a final assignment, which we call a data pitch, meaning we don't ask you to create a full data journalism investigation, but we ask you to create a document to pitch on a potential idea, because then if you go through the process, you will have the chance to present this pitch to a panel of stakeholders in the industry who perhaps might want to go forward with your idea. And so in the data pitch, you will talk a little bit about, why is the project important, what data are you going to use, or, what type of visualization do you think will work well? So it's really not a full project, but just like a sneak peek of what you would like to do with the hope of receiving interest in it. Some examples of data pitches from last year are the one, for example, you see in the background. So participant investigated patterns in femicides in Turkey. She even made a map and tried to find both spatial and more quantitative patterns in type of perpetrators and victims. And then another project is this one in the background, where the student tried to look at features of the moon, so the names of satellites, the name of craters, the name of different lunar features, and she tried to see who are they named after. and to see whether, how diverse they were. Like, are there many Americans? Are there many women? Are there many people? Or are there many, geographical places? What type of people are the features named after? So these are two data features that then, were, got the interest of other EDJNet partners, and they came out of this training program. So I don't want to spend much time on the program. You can ask other questions using the Q&A section, and we will answer them at the end. So I'm about to leave the floor to Thanasis, but first I want to give you a preview of something that's going to happen soon, meaning we are opening the enrollment. So far you could join the waiting list. From tomorrow, if you have joined the waiting list, you will receive a link to complete the registration and so secure your spot for the September training. So this is an invitation to join the waiting list today, basically, so that tomorrow you can complete the whole process. And otherwise, you can still sign up, but just today, if you complete it by today, you are sure that you will receive the enrollment link tomorrow. So I leave the floor for our guest speaker. Feel free to grab my screen.
Hello, all. Thank you very much for your interest in participating in this talk. Allow me to share my screen. I have a small presentation that will guide us through the project. Let me see. Here we are. Okay, and now I think you can all see my screen. So my name is Thanasis. I'm a Greek. I'm based in Athens, Greece. I'm of Greek nationality. I'm a data journalist working for a non-profit journalism organization, which is called iMEdD. iMEdD stands for Incubator for Media Education and Development. It's a non-profit journalism organization, as I told you before, which is exclusively funded by the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. And our mission is to support and promote transparency, credibility, and independence in journalism. So the project that I will be talking today is about how we analyze political speech in Greece by using AI models, artificial intelligence models. The most well-known is ChatGPT. I could also start with this, which is welcome to hell. Why hell? You will ask me. It's because our knowledge of political science is imprecise, and our hypothesis about politics cannot be transformed into scientific laws. Additionally, AI models are also fraught with uncertainty. At the same time, though, journalism is the opposite. It's all about, it focuses on facts and certainty. Therefore, we had to traverse a challenging, if I may say, challenging paths to arrive to our results. So this wasn't easy, so thus the hell. So in this project, we started working with my colleague Kelly Kiki from iMEdD last April, and it was concluded after the second round of the Greek elections on June 25th. So what this project is about, we analyzed pre-election political speeches utilizing cutting-edge AI models like ChatGPT. It's an experimental project, and therefore it needed an interdisciplinary team. So we collaborated with a computer science research team named Data Lab at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki and a political scientist, Adonis Galanopoulos. What we analyzed, before saying that, what were our objectives? First was to provide a comprehensive analysis of the political discourse. And secondly, to evaluate the capacity of these large language models to analyze political speech. What we analyzed, the goal was by using what we like to say human knowledge and AI to conduct algorithmic analysis of sentiment, polarization, and populism in pre-election political speeches. We analyzed the speeches of 6 political party leaders. Also, this project relies heavily on topic detection, which enables a deeper, if I may say, comprehension of the dominant issue and themes in the political discourse. So we analyzed sentiment, this dominant sentiment expressed in the text, in the speech, and we set a value from -0, which means negative sentiment, to 1, which means positive sentiment to each speech. And I will tell you a little bit later exactly how we did it and what was the methodology that we followed. Polarization, we examined the levels of political polarization. Political polarization represents the intensity of the binary of the opposing political ideologies. Our hypothesis here was in the media, we were hearing that these elections were the most polarized elections ever, etc., etc. And so we wanted to check if that was true. Fun fact, it wasn't. Populism, again, we set a value on a scale from 0 to 1 to indicate the populism levels. We extracted the name entity recognition. So we extracted groups of people from the speeches, parties, countries, organizations, and locations. And then, as I told you before, the topic analysis was very important in our research. First, we examined if a passage of the speech was dedicated into criticism or into presenting the political agenda of the party. And then for each passage, we wanted to examine which was the main topic mentioned in this in the text. So, for instance, the list included abstention, accountability, agricultural policy, civil protection, corruption, etc. Before moving forward, I would like to show you, if you don't mind, the project of the elections that we published. Give me a second to do that. Screen share, here we are. So this is on our website. This is where we published our findings. We have the methodology and experts who wrote pieces analyzing the results and analyzing the results of the elections after the end of the election. Here is the visualization about the sentiment analysis. We have each party leader, and you can check each speech that he gave during the elections, before the elections, what was the sentiment for each speech, and also for all the speeches. So you can see Kyriakos Mitsotakis was the prime minister before, and also he won the elections and he moved towards a more positive discourse. Alexis Tsipras was more neutral, and then we have Kyriakos Velopoulos, more negative, who is also a party leader of a far-right party. So this is the sentiment analysis during the election period. So this is the start of the pre-election period, the middle and the end. And here you can see the strategy and how they moved and which towards, if they were in the neutral zone or the positive zone or the negative zone. And then also you can compare the leaders with each other. This is the sentiment analysis during each speech between these two party leaders. For instance, this is Alexis Tsipras and Kyriakos Mitsotakis. These are the last speeches before the elections, and here you can see quite clearly the strategy that each party leader followed. And then after we got the results, we also knew why. If the strategy of each party leader actually worked or not. This is a sentiment analysis by topic. So if you can see just by a glance, you can see that Kyriakos Mitsotakis, for instance, had a positive followed a positive discourse about all the topics that were mentioned, but at the same time, Alexis Tsipras decided, for instance, to move into a negative sentiment. This is the topic, the visualization about the topic analysis. You can see, for instance, here that Mitsotakis, by 88%, he spoke about his agenda for the country, and by only 12% about he dedicated into criticism of the opponent parties. And then you can also see exactly which topics they mentioned. This is the visualization about polarization and populism. And this is the first election, and here after the red line is the second election. The first ones took place on May 21st, I think, and then the second on June 25th. And you can see here is the moderate, what we visualize is what percentage of the speech had moderate or high polarization values. And for populism, we had very low populism values in the elections. And this is one of the most important graphics. It's not that easy to understand, but it's one of the most important, and we got a lot of journalists actually use this to get stories out of it. So here you can see each party leader, what are the named entities that we extracted from their speeches. So. And then we have some other also visualizations, like which party leader talks more about which opponent, etc. So let's go back into our deck and see how did we actually do, and what was the methodology that we followed in order to complete this project. Sure. Okay. So let's say that we received, as I told you before, we followed only 6 political party leaders during the elections. Let's say that we received their speech in a written form. What happened afterwards? Here, step 1 was to receive the speech. Step 2 was to break down paragraphs, and this was happened by humans, by the journalistic team. Then we used an AI model to translate the text into English, and also to correct it for grammar and syntax. And then we used the AI model, ChatGPT, to do the analysis. And at the end, we did the data validation. So the journalists and the computers and the political scientists, we read all the speeches and said, to examine if the values that we got from ChatGPT actually made sense, or if they were, wrong or false. When we received speeches in audiovisual form, like in video or audio, then we also used an AI model to transcribe the speech, and then to translate it, correct it, validate the translation, and then do all the steps that I showed you before. So as you can see, despite the fact that ChatGPT is such a good model, we didn't trust it to do all the job without us interfering and checking how well it did actually. So these are the 3 models that we used. It's DeepL, Transcriptor, and ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. DeepL is for translation, and we used it through the API. Transcriptor, we use the web app because a team of 8 journalists actually they received the speeches and then they transcribed it and read the transcription and read the translation, etc. And then ChatGPT Turbo did 3.5 Turbo did the analysis. Unfortunately, we got access to ChatGPT 4 right after the elections. So it wasn't timely. So how did we use ChatGPT 3.5? So now let's talk a little bit about prompting and the prompt engineering. It's a new, it's something that we hear a lot during this past 6 months. A prompt should contain any of the following elements. Give me a moment just to make my colleagues a bit. Sorry. I hope you can hear me well. Do you hear a lot of background noise? No, okay, that's perfect. So a prompt should contain instructions, context, input data, and output indicator. We used two types of prompts. The first one is called zero-shot prompting, and the second one is called few-shot prompting. Let's see an example. With the zero-shot prompting, we just ask ChatGPT something. So for instance, if we want to ask to classify the text into neutral, negative, or positive sentiment, do not provide explanation. The text is, I think the food was okay. What is the sentiment here? We leave it empty for ChatGPT to provide the answer. And then we give very precise instructions. Format the answer as a dictionary with the following keys separated by commas, text and sentiment. And format the answer as an HTML table. And then style the HTML fancy, because we are fancy. So these are the results. This is what we get from ChatGPT. Either we use it the web app or we use the API. This is the result that we get. And then the text, I think the food was okay. The sentiment of this text is neutral. So this is what we call the zero-shot prompting. So for instance, in our project, we asked ChatGPT, is this paragraph, should it belong into the criticism category or into the political agenda category? Now let's see the few shots prompting. Few shots prompts enable in-context learning. So as you know, we cannot fine-tune ChatGPT into our own project, but we can change the logic of its answer, and we can influence by using the context its answer. So for instance, we can give, this is a prompt example. This is awesome, that's positive. This is bad, that's a negative sentiment. Wow, that movie was rad, that's a positive sentiment. And then we leave the one that we actually want the answer empty. What a horrible show. So this is the result of this type of prompting. This is a very easy result, and with ChatGPT 4, maybe we don't need it. But if you try to do other types of analysis, there is a problem. And the problem that we faced was with the bias of ChatGPT towards political speeches. So we wanted to make sure that the results that we could get about, especially about polarization and sentiment, that we could influence the results. Therefore, this is the prompt that we gave it in order to get the result about the polarization and the sentiment. So the political side, this is an F string, by the way. The political scientist wrote the criteria under which a passage could be highly polarized. So we give the context, and in the context we give all the criteria and the meaning of polarization. And then we ask the question, we leave the answer empty to get the answer, and then the text, we provide the text that we want to analyze. I have to say that the results that we got were very good in terms of accuracy. We had something like more than 90% of accuracy on sentiment and polarization. We had something around 70% accuracy in topic detection and more than 93% in sentiment analysis. So it was quite good, but at the same time, we read everything. So we didn't just, sleep with it, sleep and leave ChatGPT do the whole work. So I will share afterwards my this deck. I have some links about the project, our GitHub repository. If you want to learn more about prompt engineering, there is this amazing guide that you can use. And then if you want to learn about AI and machine learning, also there is this web app, let's say, kind of, with very easy way to, a very nice way to introduce you into machine learning. So who worked in this project? As you can see, this is not a one-man show. There were almost 16 people who worked in this project during these months. And I think that's it. I don't know if we have more time for Q&A. And last, I want to tell you that on September 28th, we have the iMEdD International Journalism Forum. It will happen in Athens. It's free of charge, so everyone can participate. You don't have to pay any fees. And if you go on our website, forum.imed.org, you can get more information about the speakers and the program. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Thanasis. It was super interesting. Even if I had already looked at the project, I really found it insightful to know more about, the background and even a little bit of the technical aspects, because I had so many questions. I saw them answered actually by your explanation. So that was very useful. So yes, we have a few minutes for the Q&A, and there are some questions that we received. I'm just going to make a recap of some questions which were about the data journalism program, which we already answered individually, but just to have a recap for everybody. So if you already have signed up for the waiting list, you don't need to do it again. So you will automatically receive an email from us tomorrow to complete the registration. If you have doubts about whether you had signed up for the waiting list or not, maybe you can also just drop us an email and we can check for you. And that's about it. Oh, there was another question about the prerequisites if you have to be a journalist to participate, and the answer is no. You have to be interested in journalism, of course, otherwise it doesn't make sense to join. But even if you're not actively working in journalism now because you're a student or you want to have a career change, you are welcome to the program. So after having answered these more boring questions, I leave the floor to the question for Thanasis, which I can read from the Q&A. So, well, there was a question about how you define populism and polarization, but then you already answered it in the slide. And so thanks for that. There are a series of compliments about the work being super amazing, which I second.
Thank you very much. I can see now the questions. For some reason, I didn't activate that.
Oh, no problem. And then there was a request if you could share the link of the guides that you mentioned in one of the last slides.
Yes, I will send. Actually, I will send you, and maybe you can share with everyone the PDF file with all the links. I just shared on the chat the project, and there we have a more detailed methodology about how we did the project. Our code is open source. So if you want to use this code to do analysis in your own countries, please reach out and we can make sure to help you do it yourself. But you will definitely need to have a political science scientist from your country and some basic knowledge of Python. The code was very simple to write and it wasn't that difficult. And I think it's where the future will take us eventually. And this is why we wanted to check these models and check their capacity.
And then there was a question about how you made the speedometer on the page.
We did that on, I always forget the name of the at the observable. This was an observable chart, and we embedded it on the website. I thought at first I was very skeptical about using observable, but this is amazing, and the quality of the charts and the graphics, and also the speed of the chart was very good. So I can also send you the links to our observable if you are interested in.
Then there was a question which maybe is linked to what you showed in the last slides about the people who worked on the project. So how many IT experts other
Yes. So there were 2 IT experts from the computer scientist group, the data lab, and we had 2 from the office that helped us like record the interviews, the speeches, etc. We had the data visualization expert. And then we had also a journalist, Kelly and I, who led the project, also worked on that. And it took us almost a month to design like 3 weeks to design the project, and then it worked. It wasn't automated. Because we had to read everything in order, because it was elections, we couldn't play with that or like publish false results. But the project lasted like for 3 months or so, 3.5 months.
We have what I see is a last question, and then I also have one which I hope is short, but I'm really curious and I want to ask it. So from the audience, they asked, in terms of media monitoring, was that automated and how long did it take? So I guess they mean like collecting the sources to feed to the ChatGPT, I guess.
Yes, it wasn't automated. The only thing that was automated was the analysis, that it took for each speech like 2 minutes to run the analysis and run the translation and the correction and etc. And then the journalists, we had to read, and the political scientists had to read everything in order to publish it. So if we say it took almost 3, in the best case scenario, 3 hours before we publish it, but in most cases it was like something like half a day.
Okay, so we have a few questions still coming up. I think we can answer for till 12:35. Then I guess we have to leave the other question eventually to email. But so they ask whether you can talk a little bit about the translation part to understand whether the project is possible to replicate.
So yes, well, ChatGPT doesn't work very well in Greek. So we decided to translate everything automatically into English. So we found that the DeepL algorithm was the best to translate Greek into English, from Greek into English. And then the fun part was that we used ChatGPT to correct the translation only for grammar and syntax. So we didn't want it to rewrite the text, but we wanted to be to correct in order to not make silly mistakes. DeepL isn't free, but it's not that expensive. I think we paid for this project in total something like €100 or something like that. And yes, this was the easiest. I mean, it was quite easy, and I think you can in your countries also you can use the same method in order to translate it in English, and then you do the analysis in English. And this will unfortunately happen until we have great models that work in all languages, because right now they don't work.
Thanks. Okay, so we ran out of time, even if we still have many interesting questions about, for example, the ethical aspects. I think we have to set up another meeting, I think, just to discuss more in depth, not just the project, but in general, AI and its implications. So sorry, we couldn't answer all of them, but stay tuned, because we will certainly come back to this topic in future webinar, because we find it very fascinating as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thanasis, for being with us, especially, and to illuminate us with these methodologies and ideas for future journalism projects. And
thank you very much,
everyone of the audience, for being with us. We will send you an email in the upcoming days with links to the recording, slides of the presentations, and also, of course, a link to sign up to the waiting list and to enroll if you haven't done so already. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.